So they pitched us, and they basically they were going around because USO tours often include celebrities. So you had a lot of Bob Hope, like you mentioned, a lot of Robin Williams, but they've been branching out into games now, naturally, because generations are changing.
Yeah.
So what they did was USO partnered with Activision, and they sent Activision and some developers from Sledgehammer to Kuwait and Germany to show off, to let soldiers play one of the, I can't remember which one, I think it's War Machine, one of the Call of Duty World War II DLCs first.
Okay.
And
literally first?
Yeah, first. Like they were.
That's amazing.
Yeah, and put on a tournament. No stakes tournament where everyone played and they got challenge coins and stuff, and the soldiers were really into it.
They were the Sledgehammer coins?
Yeah.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah. So, and that was basically the whole thing, was just us going. We went to 2 places in Germany and 2 places in Kuwait for them to put on those tournaments. And like, I just talked to soldiers. Like, that's what I did the entire time. Because, for the magazine, we didn't necessarily focus on Call of Duty. That was just a part of the story. We wanted to talk to soldiers about how video games fit into their lives.
Right. But Activision reached out to us and said, hey, would you guys like to tag along? And it's like, yeah, as long as this isn't just kissing too much Call of Duty.
Yeah.
Like, it is an interesting story to witness.
Yeah. No, and they were super, I want to say on the record that they were super cool about that. They never ever were like, hey, say more Call of Duty here or anything. Like,
right.
Because I sent it to them for fact checking, as you should.
Right.
And like, they were super cool about it. Like, let's be real here. The soldiers were really into Call of Duty. Like, that was like, because one of the questions I would ask, like, all the soldiers was, what games are you playing? What are some of your favorite games? And Call of Duty was always at the top.
Yeah.
And then it was other stuff like, Fortnite. It blew my mind because I always thought, what I went in there thinking was like, when I asked them the Fortnite PUBG question, it'd come back PUBG like every time.
Because more grounded, more literal. Yeah. Soldiers. Yeah.
No PUBG almost.
Really?
At all. Almost always Fortnite.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. And then like Madden, a lot of sports games, and League of Legends. They're really into League of Legends.
That seems like a complicated setup. Like having like a console where you can play every once in a while, but like everybody having their own like PC. Mm-hmm. What's going on? Okay, let's focus on maybe Kuwait in particular. No offense to the soldiers in Germany. I'd imagine that's a little bit more understandable. Yeah. But the Kuwait base, like, what were either of those like?
Oh man, a lot of sand.
Okay, really. And like, as you're flying over, do you just see oceans of sand? What a crazy thing.
Yeah, it's pretty much like you would imagine. There are a lot of radio towers. Transmission towers.
Okay.
Kuwait itself is kind of an odd city where it's like, you see a sort of clash of like a bunch of stone broken buildings, that are just ages old mixed with skyscrapers.
Yeah.
So it's like, clashing of old and new. And the bases themselves, there's a lot of, it was more colorful than I expected actually, because regiments and troops that leave, they often have like artists in their squads and stuff. So they'll paint the concrete blockades that are, around with like unit art. Okay. So you had like, in the magazine, we have one in the picture in the magazine, actually. It's like Harlem Hellfighters was what this group called themselves. And they had a little cool like mural to, sort of celebrate the time that they were at this base.
Okay.
So there was, there's some stuff like that, but mostly both bases were a lot of bored people looking for a way to kill time. Like if you've ever seen an episode of MASH, like it's pretty 1-1, like but a lot of them were into video games. They were super into gaming. I had a lot of them, and of course, both men and women too. So it wasn't just like a bunch of dudes,
right?
Like everyone there was into games. It felt like everyone I talked to, even people who weren't like taking part in the tourney, because I made sure to talk to people who were on the outskirts. The only sort of like nasty comment or thing that I saw about video games from soldiers were, these 2 soldiers were trying to play their tabletop game and the Call of Duty game was interrupting them with like all the noise and stuff. And they just kept giving side eye to like the tournament players. It was real good.
Activision loved it.
Yeah.
But that's so bizarre to think about. Like, everybody on these military bases, you run some drills and then the rest of the time it is a lot of waiting around. Like we actually have some emails from people, which we'll get to in a bit.
A lot of hurry up and wait.
I was amazed by that. Like I never thought it would be so boring.
It's so boring. Like that everyone says it. I don't think it's offensive to call it that, because like they tell, that's what they told me while I was there, all of them.
Yeah, it's
like all ranks. Like it's so boring out here.
Yeah. It's, and just in terms of, even my best friend now, and he's just in Louisiana, but they do like field exercises, but it's like pretty much has a mandatory training time in the morning, like for working out or stuff. And it's basically like just go to the gym like and work out or go do like PT. And then it's like, that's it. And then like maybe do paperwork or stuff like that. And then they'll have like go out in the field for just hours, like sitting around or stuff like that for the next day. And it's kind of the same thing even on the bases where it's like, it's not like you're going to war every day. A lot of the times it's just you're there to be there. And other than training, there's nothing to do. And they're not any different from anybody else. I mean,
from these particular bases.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm
like,
sure it varies base to base and where you're actually stationed, all that stuff.
But like, yeah, like the bomb disposal squad in Ramstein, they have like Smash Brothers tournaments to just kill time, like Nintendo 64 Smash Brother tournaments.
Wait, I think you said Melee in the piece.
Did I say Melee? Yeah, then Melee. Yeah, all right.
Story's full of holes, Jimmy. Yeah. Did you even go to Kuwait and Germany? I don't know what the hell's going on there.
Yeah, but no, like they were really enthusiastic about games. Like one of them was like, oh yeah, everybody in the military I know is like a gamer in one way or another, even if it's just like on phones or something.
I'm amazed reading your piece, and this is probably, it's completely on me for not realizing how up to date they are, but I assumed it was just like spotty internet connection, but it seemed like everybody's pretty much on point. They're like making Black Panther references and stuff. By the time you went out there, it's like, oh, Black Panther just came out, but they have movies fully caught up to date.
Yeah, no, dude, it's real weird. Both of the Kuwait installations I went to, they had theaters. You know, it's, and when I say theater, it's probably like 2.5 times the size.
Derek,
of
he's
the
saying
room.
theater, right?
It's true.
It's silly, right? Okay, theater.
Right.
Theater, Jimmy. Here we go.
You know, they have like sort of a projector that's like, you know, classroom size and, you know, a screen that's maybe like that big, like as big as this wall back here.
Okay, he says as big as the wall if you couldn't hear that.
And it's hooked up to a hard drive with or maybe a server with a bunch of movies like Blade Runner and stuff. So, you know, I thought that was kind of neat.
That new hot movie.
Yeah. Everyone's talking about it.
But like, it was interesting because I heard a lot of sort of mixed stuff about the internet stuff.
Oh, yeah?
Like when it came to playing multiplayer, like most of them said like, oh yeah, playing multiplayer sucks unless you can do it local, which is another reason why they like Call of Duty. Cause
right,
a lot
of course.
Time, yeah. But a lot of them like just bit the bullet and got the Verizon sort of like data plan. Yeah, hotspot that they use to play multiplayer.
That's crazy.
You know,
really?
That they pay that much for it. But like there was one guy there who was like, yeah, I play Monster Hunter World with my kid.
That's awesome.
Yeah, that's good.
How was the trip for you overall? Was it eye-opening? Was it about as you expected? Like, what's the mood as you're leaving that place?
I mean, it was a fascinating trip, once in a lifetime experience. I really loved it. Everyone was a lot younger than I thought they would be. Like, I stepped on a base, and I think it's just after years of being sort of like the movies about military coming out. So, you know, like Platoon or MASH or whatever. It's always like, oh, these sort of grizzled guys
totally.
or, you know, women who are like in their 30s or whatever. Like a bunch of these soldiers.
It's kids out of high school.
Yeah. Like I used to teach college, and like a lot of these kids were younger than the kids I taught in college.
Yeah, it turns out it's just people in the teens or in their 20s that are gathering around for an anime geek night, as you mentioned.
Yeah, there's an anime night.
Right, where it's like, oh, I understand these people. Okay, it feels too distant for us, I think, back in the States.
Yeah, so that was I think the most interesting thing was seeing how young and attuned to geek culture, not even attuned, like geek culture was like just huge over there, just as huge over there as it was here.
Yeah.
You know, and I think maybe even bigger over there because it was like, it's a stronger connection to home.
Right.
You know? And it's real hard to sort of, according to them, it's real hard to sort of hold on to that.
Did they geek out over the developers being there?
Oh, God, yes.
These are like developers, like, this isn't just producers or people in communications. No. These are like on the ground Sledgehammer developers.
There were like 3 Sledgehammer developers, and then there was their internal communications manager.
Okay.
And then there was Kevin Kelly and Ali Miller, who are like Call of Duty brand Activision people.
Okay. But did they just like barrage these people with questions?
Yeah, no, it was really interesting because, you know, we had some of the soldiers take us aside, and I don't think they were, you know, sort of just making anything up, but sort of some of the like the higher ranking soldiers, they were like, yeah, I've seen, you know, like, you know, smaller turnouts for like celebrities. Like this is as big as I've ever seen it. And it was just, they basically treated the Sledgehammer developers kind of like rock stars. Like they rushed them and were like, hey, tell us about Black Ops 4. When's that coming?
Where's that campaign?
Can you give us details?
Yeah, I've heard some things on Polygon about not having a campaign.
Yeah. And then when we went to the other camp, which was filled with people who were older, you know, not necessarily into gaming as much, they were still interested in it. Like
Okay.
there was like an era of keen interest who were like, well, making this World War II game, how did you guys try to get that historical authenticity? So even among like older soldiers who aren't necessarily into video games, they were still like, sort of mesmerized by this. They wanted to know more about it. But like during like Ramstein and during the first base at Kuwait particular, like, yeah, they were just, it was like being at a rock concert, basically.
Like a Rammstein concert.
Yeah.
Of course.
You're also with some YouTuber?
Yeah, Jordan Payton. His name's Legion. Or Legion, his name's Jordan Payton. He got famous because he plays a lot of Fortnite and sings country song covers of like rap songs of like Drake and stuff. And he's really funny and crass but kind.
Really?
Yeah, and he's partnered with Taco Bell and what's the pizza thing? DiGiorno's?
Yeah.
Yeah.
What are you talking about?
Yeah,
There's so much pizza
he has
in
to
the
do
world.
like content with them. Yeah.
Does DiGiorno's content?
Yeah.
This sounds cool.
Yeah, no, but he's really funny, and like that was also another eye-opening thing was when we got there, a lot of the soldiers already knew who this guy was. I'd never heard of him.
Right.
Like
We're very uncool.
yeah, we're so uncool. But he's got like 300,000 followers on Twitter and YouTube, so it's not too surprising. But they like knew who he was. They asked him for autographs and stuff.
That's cool. I love that the USO is so smart that they're going for YouTubers and streamers and getting them in there. Just people that soldiers will actually react to. Did he film any sort of like travel log or do anything like that?
Oh yeah, for sure.
Are you in it?
Yeah. I mean,
Is it fun? Should I watch it?
yeah, I'll show you later. It's good. But
Okay.
there's definitely one. There's an entertaining one where like we went to the canine kennel and got to see the German Shepherds and stuff. And
Okay.
then they had us put on a fluffy suit
And get attacked.
and the German Shepherds attacked us.
And that's in the video?
Him getting attacked in the video.
Oh, that's so good.
But
That's so
like,
good.
JV just punched them all off.
no, that they bite hard. But anyway, like there's definitely a video of like Jordan running and the dog chasing after him and one of the USO guys going, "Run, Forrest, run," and then someone else going, "For the content," before the dog like just knocks him over.
That's
but
great.
yeah, he's real cool.
That's
I like
great.
him.
What's the name again?
Jordan Payton.
Jordan Payton. You can look it up. What a weird trip, JV.
Yeah, it's
I'm
super
so
weird.
happy you did that. Was it a fun one to write?
Yeah.
We should mention you can find this piece also online in addition to the Game Informer.
Yeah,
which
it's
is-
online right now.
What's the name of it?
Coping with War.
Okay, Game Informer Coping with War is what you type in on Google to
Yeah,
maybe
and it's
find
the
it.
first result because we have a site now that functions. It's the
Yeah, hey,
best.
GameInformer.com, everybody. This isn't about us. This is about the troops, JV.
Yes.
And so we actually sent out a tweet looking for people in the military who have been in the military to just tell stories about gaming overseas or while they're in service. And so we got a handful of emails here if you want to sit down for story time.
Let's do it.
You ready,
good.
Derek?
Absolutely.
Okay, great. Your color commentary over there.
All right.
Respectful color commentary. Okay, here we go. Hey, GI Show crew. My name is Andrew Gentry, and I currently serve in the Army as an explosive ordnance disposal technician. I've been in the Army for 14 years. I've been deployed to Iraq once and Afghanistan twice. I leave for another tour to Afghanistan in just a few weeks. Gaming has been a major part of my deployments in the past. My first deployment to Iraq in 2005, I played the heck out of my PSP. I was able to buy an Xbox 360 when they first came out in 2006 while I was still in Iraq. I remember having the King Kong game and NBA 2K.
I just want to say that game's
classic
really
game.
good. King Kong is
King Kong?
really
King
good.
King Kong, the official game of the movie, outside of Jurassic World Evolution, it is the best Jurassic Park game. Like running from little hut to little hut, dodging dinosaurs. One of the best. One of the best.
How's that game that good?
That's
Michelle
very good.
Ancel.
It's
That
one of
game
those-
is as good as its title is bad.
You're totally right. Also ahead of its time for like no UI and like having the lead
yeah.
character, he'd be like 4 bullets left.
Yeah,
Reloading.
check, yeah.
Yeah, he would convey everything you needed. And like some of the tech looks a little bit rough. Those faces are rough, but that core game, also it's a lot of shooting centipedes and stuff, which gets annoying along the way. Everything else is good.
I just want to say though, like I kept thinking about that game a lot 2 days ago because I was watching Jumanji 2.
Oh yeah.
And Jack Black was in there, and I kept thinking of him and the King Kong.
Yeah, he's like wearing the same outfit.
He's wearing the same outfit.
Yeah, the go-to jungle guy.
Yeah.
Anyways, Andrew here. He says in 2010 while I was in Afghanistan, guys in my unit set up Ethernet cable through our home so that we could play Call of Duty together. That year also Red Dead came out and provided hours of entertainment for me. Once again in Afghanistan, I got into Skyrim. Can you imagine that?
Skyrim was huge even at the military college.
Oh,
Like,
yeah?
even tons of people didn't have like consoles or anything. It like took over to the point where just every single person was talking about it, which you wouldn't think. Just anybody, even everybody that was like, oh, I only play Call of Duty. They're like, oh, have you heard about this Skyrim game? And then it was to the point where like the slippery when wet signs had little pictures of like people Fusro dying, like the guy making him fall
Really?
over and stuff. So people were just like plastering Skyrim stuff all over like the barracks, and it was like it was so weird because I was like, oh man, I'm so excited for Skyrim because I played like Morrowind and all that stuff and loved those games, and then I was like, yeah, I'm playing this game Skyrim, and everybody's like, oh my god, Skyrim.
Yeah, of course, it's just gamers everywhere. Anyways, he says, as I prepare for the next deployment, I've purchased a Switch. I think it's going to be great for travel, and I can play Skyrim again, which would be bizarre for him. He says, gaming really helps me to stay sane while being away from my family for so long. I'm 35 years old and married with 4 kids. It is easy to get down while away, and gaming can transform you to another place. I enjoy deep RPG-style games. Now that I've found this show, I plan to continue watching while deployed. Thank you so much. He says, also, I currently live in Clarksville, Tennessee, near Fort Campbell, Kentucky. I'm originally from Louisville, Kentucky. Barely has a pin on the map. Yeah, you're right, Andrew. That's totally correct. Thank you. You want to read one from Voy? It's actually written into the podcast before.
Voy Jednik? Jadnik.
You got it.
I am so sorry if I messed up your name. Please forgive me. I also have a weird name, so I feel like I get a license to mess up names.
It's true.
All right. Hey, Ben and the Bentacles. I saw you were looking for some feedback from military members and the effect video games had on them. I was in the Navy in the early 2000s on a ship called the USS Incon. This was before the internet was common for lower rank enlisted, so to entertain ourselves during long days at sea, we would play video games. We would crowd around a 28-inch TV and play Dreamcast or Nintendo 64. They were preferred because they were allowed for 4 controllers to be plugged in at once. Video games were a great way to get to know personnel outside of your department, as well as take care of the competitive itch with games like NFL 2K. I've been out of the military for some time now, and I've always wondered how gaming has evolved. So thank JV for the article.
Oh, there we go. That's right. He's from Shakopee, Minnesota.
All right,
Derek, you want the next one, man?
Should we say anything about that one?
I love the idea of local multiplayer being big over there. Like, I think about Melee, like you mentioned in your article and stuff like that. And of course, Dreamcast, you get 4 controllers there. You got to play Toy Commander. It's military themed. It's right there. Power Stone.
I did not ask them about Nidhogg. I should have asked them if they played Nidhogg.
Why? Because that's your go-to local multiplayer game?
Yes, because that game's amazing.
Local multiplayer is such a good way to get to know people, especially like ones you haven't spent that much time with. I mean, the way people like reveal parts of their personality.
Oh, you get to see their best and their worst.
It's basically drinking without drinking. It's just like people screaming and acting like idiots.
Screen cheating.
Revealing their darkest secrets.
It's exactly what your commanding officers want. Just people to tear each other apart from screen cheating. All right, Derek, take it away.
All right. Hello, podcast people. Aaron from Cleveland. I assume that's Ohio. I'll tell you something you don't know. Overseas, you can go from fast roping out of a Blackhawk to recover your friend's remains from a destroyed OH-58D helicopter immediately to days of mind-numbing boredom. The boredom can be awful. There's honestly only so much sleeping and eating you can do. Guys like me game to make the time go by. I scored a Nintendo Wii over there. This was 2008 to 2009. And I played Upona for 16 hours nonstop one day. Try that in an extra live stream without putting a gun in your mouth.
I won't. I looked up footage of that and it looks effing terrible.
I've never even heard of it.
It's a horrific looking RPG for the Wii. It just looks simple as hell.
We had assembled enough scrap to put a small network together between our little housing containers and play some Quake 1 and Quake 3 Arena on LAN. Doom and Duke 3D was a given. We were running high-res versions of Duke 3D and source ports of Doom, Z-Doom, or GZ Doom. I've attached some pictures for your enjoyment, a picture of one of the decks we constructed, living quarters. You can see some of our network cables, and a funny picture we made of a stuffed bunny rabbit trying to murder one of us.
They were very good photos. I love seeing just like how they strung these things together just to play Quake. That's so cool.
It's crazy. My immediate assumption would be you're in the military. Why Call of Duty? Like, why would you want to get back into that? And I think maybe it's the PUBG versus Fortnite thing where it's like, I think PUBG maybe goes a little too far in the realm of like stressful and like worrying about that kind of stuff. Whereas like Call of Duty just is not realistic at all. And
Sledgehammer developers.
Is no actual representation of like being in the military, and you have so little agency in the military. Whereas Call of Duty, it's like you are center boy of this amazing like front, like fighting and stuff like that, which is just that is not the military.
Well, in terms of the realism, actually, we have Eutimio Gomez writes in with an interesting connection there. Saying, hey, I've been deployed 5 times in combat zones in Iraq and Afghanistan, and during those times we had used games mainly for coping mechanisms. I especially played Battlefield 4, which I actually used what I learned in the Army from the experiences that I had to the exact T in Battlefield 4. It actually made me the greatest sniper in Battlefield 4 on PS4. Not bragging, but yes, I am up there in the leaderboards. All right, good job, good job. He says, I used BF4 because it truly was my coping mechanism to fill that urge to be violent. I know that sounds bad, but it truly was what I was doing during the war. I wasn't a pencil pusher or someone that just went back, who just went and came back to say they went to war. No, I was in the front line. I went on over 300 convoy missions. I lost friends and brothers and leaders. So when we got downtime, it was either writing letters home or playing PS2 or Game Boy Advance SP at that time. This was like 2003, 2004. So when they started doing therapy for us that had deployed in combat situations, they started implementing those types of sessions I spoke of earlier. So I spent over 2,000 hours in Battlefield 4 because it truly was the only thing that made me feel whole. Interesting way to like vent or just to fulfill some of those.
Yeah, there's like training. That adrenaline. I mean, like the Hurt Locker kind of loosely goes to that, where it's like he keeps going back because he basically can't get enough of it. I'm not saying this guy can't get enough of it, but like there is that like element of like combat or stress or stuff like that that's just inherent to you. And I think it's why a lot of veterans, when they come back, can't like move into society. And then your article also had a really good thing where it's like you're told what to do and like how to do it all the time. So when you go back, it's like you're kind of just left to your own devices.
Yeah, like the other half of the article when I got back was talking to like numerous veterans, and the one sort of like connection, the one sort of consistent thing I got was just how awful it is to transition from military to life to civilian life, because you go from like an environment that's constant, like, you know, oh, everyone around me is my comrade, they're my friends, we're all looking out for each other, to like pure capitalism, baby. Yeah. You're on your own. And it's real hard. It's really hard.
Yeah, Joe Williams here writes in. He relates to that. He says, hey, Ben Hansen and Sort of GI crew. I'm Joe from Greenville, Tennessee, Devil's Country. He says, our high school mascot is the Green Devils. Thank you. He says, video games have always played a big part in my life, but they had a very special role during and after my 4 years in the Army. I did 2 trips to Afghanistan with 7th Special Forces Group, and as a member of the support teams, my job there was basically shift work with higher stakes. Halfway across the world, we did 12-hour shifts, 7 days a week for 6 months at a time, enough to drive anyone insane. Every day at the end of my shift, I would head back to my little corner of a room where I had a 24-inch TV on top of my Xbox One, on top of my PS4, and play the game of the week. I played through a lot of great single-player content, including Wolfenstein, Witcher 3, Blood and Wine, Uncharted 4, Horizon Zero Dawn, Forza Horizon 3, Rise of the Tomb Raider, to name a few. It all really helped with all the inherent stress that comes from deployments. Video games also helped me bond with my teammates both during and after my time in. I separated from the Army earlier this year, and a Discord server with a few of my buddies from my unit has done a tremendous job with keeping me in touch with them, as well as easing the transition back into the civilian world. It acts as a sort of home base or support group. Of course, this wasn't the intent. It was just a way to play PUBG, but it inadvertently provided relief for another very stressful time in my life. I like that. Just like Discord, weird connection, just to stay in touch a little bit. Dakota from DC writes in and says, hey, my cousin was part of military police deployed to Kuwait at the time. He was very much separated from his wife and son, but they would talk to us. They would talk as much as they could thanks to the USO. Being a big gamer, he would play what he could when he could to help relieve stress as well. Now, at that point, we had only really recently became close. However, I was the only other person in our family that played games, had a PS3, and had Modern Warfare 2. So playing games is one thing, but being able to play with someone else you know while being so far away has a major relief for him. I remember getting up early on Saturdays just so we could join up and play. Times have changed since then, and we haven't played in a while, but it was a really cool experience for me and a nice break from deployed life for him. All right, final email here. This is Craig Harbison from Marine Corps here. He says, hello, video games were in their infancy when I first joined the Marine Corps. I remember one Christmas time in 1981 when a fellow Marine bought an Intellivision with the Rocky boxing game. There were 6 of us who played the whole weekend. We set up a round-robin tournament to crown a champion, had to stop halfway through because we burned out a controller. Gary went to the store on Monday and bought 2 other controllers. The next weekend, we burned out one of the new ones and one of the original ones as well. I guess you could say we took it too serious. Well, I think that Rocky game was just so good that even back in 1981, you could see it was peak gaming. But hey, thank you to everybody that wrote in. If there are other people, feel free to send in more stories and emails to podcastgameinformer.com. I love to hear about that. I love just the details about the challenges of gaming overseas, in particular on these bases. I think they're really interesting.
Yeah, it turns out everybody's big nerds, kind of like the article said.
Yeah, and actually, this Chris guy wrote in. as well, and he talked about like having this crazy PC set up, and his commanding officer walked in and was like, "What are you doing? Like, are you a hacker? What is this?" It's like trying to wrap their minds around it, but it's nice. It's nice to see the military's catching up. USO is on top of gaming.
Yeah.
That was just a clip from a larger show called The Game Informer Show. You can find it on iTunes, Google Play, or GameInformer.com. We take the fun opportunities and exclusive information from Game Informer magazine and boil it into a show that airs every Thursday with exclusive cover story information, developer interviews, a lot of fun stuff. So come love games with us.